Hello everyone and welcome to the Switch into Plan B podcast. I'm Jumbo.
And I'm Robin.
And in this one we are reviewing the Austrian Grand Prix where Charles has a sticky pedal, Carlos's car goes up in flames and the stewards get strict on track limits.
Tyres are okay for Plan B.
So like Imola, I think it was, we actually forgot that this was a sprint weekend again.
Yeah, we're not very good at keeping track of these.
No, we always forget. So it was a sprint weekend. So that meant qualifying on Friday, which you're not that big a fan of because you always miss the first part because you're at work. And then obviously we have the race on the sprint race on the Saturday, which then determines the grid for the race on the Sunday.
Yeah.
We do this every time. Thoughts on the sprint race and just sprint in general?
I think if you're there that weekend, and I guess maybe that is what they're looking for, the experience of the people actually there, it makes the weekend a bit more exciting because you get to see two bigger races, if that makes sense. Yeah. I know that there is F2 and W Series, and I think F3 as well. Normally, I don't think there was W Series this week.
No, F3 and F2
yeah,
this week.
But like normally there are other things that you can watch at the same as well. But F1 kind of racing, you get two races basically in one weekend, which is nice. Watching the races though, I feel like after the first couple of laps, the grid is already decided.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it initially. This weekend, I kind of changed my perspective a little bit. I'm getting more used to it. And I've got a few mates that aren't that into F1, but they tune in every now and then. And they like the sprint race because it's something to watch. And you get highly competitive people, like the drivers, going at it. And it's also much better, as Martin Brundle said, than watching free practice.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So it is better. It's actually more entertaining from that side of it. And I think maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. But the way how I think this could get even better, and we've seen it in Brazil last year, and a little bit this year with Checo at Austria, that if you have a car that's further back, that's actually quick, coming through the field, we see a lot more action.
Yeah.
And also the track has to be a track where you can do it. Because Imola, I don't think a sprint race worked there. But here in Austria, the Red Bull Ring, I feel like it worked a lot better today. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess so.
I still feel like that what they should do, and well, I know we're still banging on about the sprint, and we will get to the actual sprint, but I still think do qualifying on the Friday, and then have that qualifying done for Sunday's race, and then the sprint race be flipped championship order. So Max and Charles be right at the back with each other.
So it's more like F2.
Yeah, a little bit, but if you have reverse championship order, it means that teams like Williams will be right at the front, like Latifi's actually going to be leading a lap.
Yeah.
Like he never gets that opportunity. So I think that would be more interesting for me.
Yeah, I think that would be quite interesting.
Because then it doesn't really matter what happens in that because you've already got the grid determined for the actual
Sunday. Yeah,
so it's just like a fun thing to do instead of practice.
You could also argue that then there's no incentive for people to do well.
There's points on offer.
Okay, so the points are still there.
And if you think about it, let's say Latifi does manage to hold on and win. That's 8 more points to him. He's not going to get, unless he has a fluky weekend and manages to get 8 points from some weekend. You're not going to get the opportunity, are you? That's what I mean. It just gives, and then I don't know. For me, that would work better. We could go around here all day just giving out ideas. So let's crack on with what actually happened in the sprint. So it was a bit crazy actually. The beginning of the sprint, Alonso didn't start.
No.
He had his tyre covers still on, and it's the funniest thing. He was still on the jacks with his tyre covers on. Do you remember what that was actually wrong with it? I think it was an engine problem.
I think it was electronics.
Okay. I'm not sure what happened there, to be honest, but Alonso didn't start, which was a shame. And then Zhou, on the formation lap, his engine just cut out. So he had to do another formation lap.
Yeah, it was a bit crazy.
It was a bit crazy. And then obviously the race started. Gasly and Hamilton came together.
Yeah. That
was a little bit interesting in terms of this is the second week where we've had someone hit the rear wheel and a car almost jumped.
Yes, yeah.
We also had the Ferraris kind of battling each other instead of working together to try and catch Max, which was a little bit detrimental because Max almost just coasted to a sprint win, really, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you can take it two ways, couldn't you? You can work together to try and catch up with Max and then one of them win, or they can race as if they aren't in the same team, as if they're individuals. And that's kind of what they did. I don't feel like Ferrari have ever been very good at getting their drivers to work together.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
So they normally just say they let them do what they want to do on track, which when it was Leclerc and Vettel, that didn't really work very well. But yeah, I think they're fighting for P1, working together.
But to contradict that, if you're second and third, and let's say when we play, or when I play video games online, you're playing Gran Turismo or F1, you kind of want to work with the car in front. So I'll get in front of him, and then he'll get the DRS and get in front of me, and I'll get the DRS, and then you sort of rotate each sort of DRS section, and you pull each other along, so then you can actually battle for the win. Does that make sense? Because instead of Carlos has come third, Charles has come second, but one of them could have come first if they'd actually worked together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You can then battle each other when we could have had a 3-way battle for the lead, but instead we didn't because they didn't do that. And obviously, like, you don't necessarily have to be in a team to do that either. That's just sort of racing knowledge. But I do feel like there is a bit of a power, maybe not a power shift, but I think that both drivers are trying to assert their dominance in the team at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
Obviously, Max is number one at Red Bull. As much as we like Checo is not going to win a title, I don't think. They're going to put all their resource behind Max. And even the car has been developed more towards Max because they've even said that it's more to the liking of Max now than it was at the beginning of the season. Whereas we don't have that in Ferrari yet.
No, but I would assume that they slightly favour Leclerc more.
I think so. I think Carlos was almost brought into that team to be a second driver, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And on raw pace, I think Leclerc 9 times out of 10 is going to beat Carlos.
Yeah.
Alex Albon had a very eventful sprint race.
I know, bless him. It wasn't very good.
No, so he got a 5-second penalty for pushing Lando off the track at turn 3 at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
I feel like this is where inconsistencies happen.
Yeah.
Track limits and defending what is allowed, what isn't allowed.
Because sometimes it's okay to squeeze someone out and other times it's not okay.
Well, even this weekend, we've had some instances where it's fine and then it's not fine and then it's a mess. And I just don't get it. I don't get why, we've said this before, why don't I have stewards that are there for the whole year? Just like go sign a contract to a steward and say, look, you're going to be here every race for this year. So at least we get a consistent year.
But aren't stewards volunteers?
Doesn't matter. You make it a paid position, so at least we get consistency. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you have this in other sports like referees in football and stuff. You have a different referee for each game.
Yeah.
And you get inconsistent decisions. But that kind of makes sense. But in a sport where you could have the same referees essentially, or stewards for that sport for the whole year, why would you not do that? If you want consistency in your sport, keep it the same. It's like changing the rules every race weekend, which, to be honest, they seem to be doing this technical directive as well. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic. Albon got a 5-second penalty. Yeah. I feel like it was a little bit harsh. I actually don't think it was as bad as the one between Max and Leclerc from 2019, where they actually hit. Max sort of knocked Leclerc off, whereas this was sort of Lando just got run wide. And I think because there's a sausage curb there as well, he almost rode the sausage. Sounded very weird, but and that just sort of unsettled the car as well. And I think that made it look worse than it actually was.
Right.
So in my opinion, that was a bit harsh, but I understand it. And then he also got away with a penalty with Seb, where he actually knocked him off into the gravel trap, which I thought was worse.
Yeah.
But got away with that one. So I was like, how does this work?
Yeah, I don't know. Which then resulted to a big discussion, I think, from what we heard from Ted's notebook on
driving standards, I think it was, in the drivers' meetings, wasn't it? Drivers' briefing.
The debrief, yeah.
Which actually Seb allegedly or has been fined for walking out.
Yeah, because he said that they weren't really getting anywhere, and if it wasn't going to sort itself out, he was just going to leave, and he did.
But if the drivers can't agree, right, and us as the fans can't fully agree, like there's big problems there. They're making this a bigger grey area than it needs to be again.
But it's not about the drivers agreeing. It's about, I guess, FIA just saying, this is allowed, this is the rule, this is the rule. You're allowed to do this and you're not allowed to do that. And it's going to be like that for all the races. And then whether the drivers think that's okay or not, that's irrelevant.
Yeah, the other thing is that where we've got some areas of the track, so obviously they're defined by the white lines. There's a lot of talk about that, and we'll get onto track limits as well later. But I don't understand. In the old days, we used to just have grass off the track. where you've got these runoff areas and sausage curbs and all of this, it makes it worse because drivers do take advantage of that.
Yeah. Johnny
Herbert.
Johnny Herbert was saying that if you do move the line, they're just going to try and go further.
They would, yeah, exactly.
So it should literally be the outer wheel should not go past the track. You have to stay within the track. And if they need to make changes to the tracks to allow for that, then that's what they have to do. Because I do feel like the tracks do need to become a bit wider because the cars are getting so much wider than they used to be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They might as well just make the tracks much wider and make it so that you have to stay within the white line. Your whole car has to stay within the white line.
Yeah, but that's no different to what it currently is, essentially. But it just means that you can't go over it at all.
Yeah.
I guess you need to police it really strictly, which they kind of did this weekend. Anyway, we're getting a little bit... We'll come back to this because we're still sticking with the sprint. And we're getting really sidetracked. So Albon did get one penalty, but not another penalty. We also got Checo, who flew through the field. So he had a strange weekend, didn't he? So he got into Q3... despite doing track limits, as we were just talking about, cut one of the corners. I think it was turn 8. He cut one of the corners. They didn't review it during Q2, so he was in Q3. Then got disqualified from Q3 and demoted back to where he was at the end of Q2 before that lap was. So he ended up P13 despite qualifying like 6th, which was weird.
It was really weird.
It also then meant Pierre Gasly, who would have got into the Q3 session, then didn't get a chance to be in Q3. Again, like just a massive... Well, they just made that much more difficult than they needed to. They could have suspended Q3 whilst they were looking at it. I've got no qualms with them just waiting 5 minutes to get the right decision.
Yeah.
And then we go into Q3.
Yeah. Because it's not fair. And as Red Bull did kick off a little bit, they used up their resources. They used up tyres. They pushed,
They got mileage on that power unit.
Yeah.
And they obviously take risks. If Checo's going in the car at 180 miles an hour, that is a risk you're taking with that person. So I totally agree with that, by the way. I think that's right. They do have a point.
No, they do have a point. And I didn't say that it wasn't right for them to say that. It was just that, it's not fair to have done that because it's not just Checo that then, as you mentioned, didn't benefit from it. It's also Gasly could have maybe gotten a bit higher up in the field where he didn't get a chance to do anything. So, yeah.
Obviously he started P13 for Checo, but I thought he was one of the ones that made it quite exciting, the sprint, because he came flying through the field. I actually finished P5. I've got my notes there. So,
yeah.
That was quite exciting. Obviously, you'd expect that with Red Bull being one of the top 2 cars on the grid at the moment. And it does just show how good the top 2 teams are.
Yeah.
Because he was so much faster than some of the other cars that he was getting past. So, yeah. I've written Schumacher and Schumacher have a great battle, but it's supposed to say Schumacher and Hamilton.
Oh, okay. I was also thinking,
We've gone back a couple of decades there. Ralph and Michael going at it. So Mick and Lewis had a great battle in the sprint.
They did, yeah.
I do feel like, don't get me wrong, I really like Mick. He seems like a really nice guy. But people absolutely love him. And I don't think it was a bad performance, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it was as amazing as some people were making out on social media. They were going, he's defended a 7-time world champion. But I was also thinking, Lewis crashed in qualifying. So as Toto said, he basically had a barn door of a rear wing, which was massive because it didn't have the lowest downforce rear wing. So it wasn't as quick. Mick also had DRS from his teammate.
Yeah.
As soon as he lost DRS from Magnussen, Lewis got past.
Yeah.
So I was a bit like, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. Yes, it was good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from Schumacher. You still got defend from Lewis.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was as amazing as everyone was making out. I understand also the car differences as well. Here's a Mercedes versus a Haas.
I think it's where we don't have favourite drivers. If Mick was your favourite driver, you'd be very biased towards and say, oh my goodness, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't really have that. We just like pretty much everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we do like Carlos because I feel like he's a bit underrated. So you want him to do well.
Yeah.
But you are right. I don't have someone that I absolutely love. That I'm in their full fan gear going absolutely nuts.
Yeah. No.
I just like seeing good racing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to be fair, it was good racing and he did do really well. But I just feel like I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I don't get why everyone was going nuts for it.
I understand, but
I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate from the comments here, but I'd say I love the guy, but I don't think it was as amazing as people were saying. But he was, going back to Mick, was really angry. You look like his dad.
Yeah.
I think someone's got a picture of it, because I said when we were watching the interview, I said, blimey, he looks like his dad. When his dad was annoyed, he had that look on him, and I thought, oh, we might be starting to see like I'm a bit of an alpha male sort of F1 driver coming through a little bit.
Yeah, I think he did need a little bit more, like, I guess something to fight for.
Yeah.
So that we get a bit more better. Don't know what I'm trying to say. We get better performance from him. Something to kind of. I think he said like light that fire.
Yeah.
In one of his interviews, and that is kind of what we've been seeing for the last 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we said last week with Carlos, where he got his elbows out with
Verstappen. Yeah.
I was like, these are nice guys, but on the track you do have to be a little bit. There has to be not a nasty side, but there has to be a no. You're not just going to walk over me. You have to stand up for yourself a little bit. I think we're starting to get that with Mick, which I think is good.
Yeah.
And he's actually starting to push K-Mag a little bit. And he even said that's why he was annoyed. Going back to why he was annoyed, he wanted the team to swap them round.
Yeah.
Because he thought that he was quicker than K-Mag.
Yeah.
I disagree with this.
I disagree too.
Because you shouldn't just be like, oh, if that was, I don't know, let's say that was Ricciardo in front of you or a McLaren in front of Mick, he would have to overtake him on the track.
Yeah.
So why is it just because his teammate that he goes, do you know what? I'll just get out of the way. I don't think so. Just go for it.
No, because the top teams normally do it when it's like their second driver is ahead and they want their first driver ahead. And I always think that that's wrong, where Checo has to give way or the last couple of years Bottas would have to give way. It's not fair. You're a driver. You get past them. Well, that's my view on it.
Team orders was banned for a long time.
Right, okay.
So they brought it back. Basically, Ferrari were cheating. I know, shock. Cheating again. It was the classic radio message to Felipe Massa saying, Fernando is faster than you. And it was basically, it's very iconic because it was basically say, get away, Fernando's way.
Yeah.
They were also the team, Ferrari was the team that was the reason why the rule got introduced, because it was called the A1 ring back in the day, the Red Bull ring. Rubens Barrichello driving Ferrari stopped basically on the line to allow Michael Schumacher to take the lead and win.
Right.
I remember watching it live and I was thinking, that is just like, why?
Yeah, that's not fair.
Yeah, it wasn't fair at all. So that was why it's brought in. I don't know if they need to bring that back in, but I don't like it. I just want to see the drivers go at each other. Like, keep it clean. By all means, don't take each other out, but just race. That's what you're born to do. Just go racing.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, yeah, I can understand Schumacher being annoyed because that's what teams do. But at the same time, I feel like if you've got the pace, then just overtake.
Yeah. And also, I don't know if the team said, no, don't overtake him. That's the only thing I wasn't sure about. And if they're doing that, then I think that is wrong and I would be annoyed. But if you're annoyed that your teammate's not getting out of the way just because you've asked nicely, I would have been like, no. K-Mag's the kind of guy that's not going to roll over for that kind of stuff anyway.
No.
And that was pretty much the sprint. So we had Max winning, get 8 points for that, and then Leclerc, and then Sainz.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty much the sprint. Overall, I think it was one of the better sprint races we've had.
Yes. I want to say Brazil was quite good.
Brazil's the best one for me.
Yeah.
Because Lewis was on an absolute tear and he had that rocket ship engine in
that
it.
was really good. And he made his way all the way up. A little bit like what Perez did this week, but not as good.
But if realistically, if Checo was P6 and Lewis didn't crash in qualifying, we wouldn't have got half the action we did.
No, true.
So, if that didn't happen and we had a normal qualifying, I do think that it would have been a totally different sprint and it probably would have been fairly boring.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as Alonso didn't even start because he's normally the sprint king where he just goes nuts in them.
I know, yeah. He's had some shocking weeks, to be fair.
He has.
Tyres are okay for plan B.
Anyway, the Austrian Grand Prix, lap one was a bit of a nightmare for Checo, really. Checo and Russell came together at turn 4, the notorious turn 4 it seems like, because there's always problems here. Someone's always going wide or is being forced off or whatever. But anyway, Checo and Russell came together. Checo got quite a bit of damage. Apparently the size of a baguette, Ted was saying.
Although we couldn't figure out what kind of baguette.
No, this is a problem for us, wasn't it? Because in the UK anyway, you can get baguettes, but you can get them, they're almost like
a meter long.
A meter long, yeah. And then you can get like a 30 centimetre baguette as well.
Yeah.
So I was like, hang on, like, are we talking like...
Because he said supermarket. When you go to supermarket, you get the really long ones, right? But then he said, Pret, you only get like the Subway ones. Yeah. So we were like, well, what kind of baguette are we talking about?
And I was also thinking, like, are we talking like a 30 centimetre, but then it's more like a sourdough? Like, I don't know. See what I mean? Like that's more like an oval sort of ellipse sort of shape, or is it like a long sort of thin baguette?
I don't know.
I don't
Only
know.
Ted knows.
I don't know. I didn't see the damage. I didn't see a picture of the damage, so I don't actually know. If you know what sort of baguette he's talking about, do let us know, because I've got no idea what sort of size baguette he's talking about. Anyway, Checo was basically done after, I think, lap 1. He was pretty much right at the back, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then I think he retired on lap 24, so it was a bit of a nightmare for Checo. But Russell did get a 5-second time penalty, which I totally agree with.
Yeah.
And he did get some damage, so he had to come in to replace his front wing. So he did drop down the field initially.
I want to say he was like P18.
He was quite far back,
He was
wasn't
very
he?
far back, yeah.
But then obviously the main sort of story, I've totally forgot about this, is that Ferrari seemed very fast compared to the sprint.
Yes, very fast. I'm not sure where they got their spicy engine from.
It was strange, wasn't it? How in the sprint they couldn't really get close to Max, but they were all over him.
Yeah.
I think Charles got past him like 3 times,
Yeah.
and fairly easily as well. Max just didn't have an answer all weekend, really. Leclerc ended up winning, spoiler alert, but he just looked on it, didn't he? He just looked really focused, really went for Max. No sort of messing around, just going to get past him, pull away. The only thing that we did have that was a bit scary is that he had a sticky throttle.
Yes. And I actually thought that he wasn't going to make the end of the race.
No. In classic Ferrari fashion, it would have been, wouldn't it? That he was just going to win and then something went wrong. And for those of you that don't know what a sticky throttle is, it's basically where either it takes a little while to come back up or to push it down. It's a bit slow in terms of responsiveness. I think it was actually coming up, wasn't it? It's that it was stuck on constantly around 20 to 30%, even when he wasn't accelerating. The car was trying to accelerate that whole time.
Yeah.
So like the slow corner at 3, he said was difficult because he's obviously, the car almost is wanting to go forward as you're wanting to brake. So you've got to brake earlier. It's obviously then trying to still accelerate when you're not wanting to. So it's actually understeering in the corner as well. So a bit of a nightmare. He was actually losing quite a bit of time towards the end. I think Max actually would have got him.
Yeah.
If there was a couple more laps to
and
go.
I think he was lucky that there were 2 cars in between as well. I think it's Norris and...
Is it back markers then? It must have been.
Yeah. But obviously, Max still had to
clear them.
Yeah. Which I think is what caused him to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously very happy for Leclerc. Brings that title battle a little bit closer towards him, 25 points.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the garage, one of our faves, Carlos.
I know. It was really sad.
It's gone up in flames for him. So he was having a great race, actually. He was sort of not on Leclerc's pace, but was not far off it, pushing Verstappen and Leclerc along nicely.
Yeah.
Looked like he was actually going to get second place. Just as he was about to overtake Verstappen, his car went bang.
I know.
It's spectacularly as well. Like, it actually fired bits of the engine through the side pods, was then on fire. He struggled to get out of the car as well. The marshals were a bit slow for me. You could see it was on fire quite quickly. They're a bit slow, the fire extinguishers. The car was actually rolling back. I don't know why, but when I was learning, I thought this, that when you're on a hill, you turn the steering wheel so that you actually, the car falls into the curb so it doesn't move.
Yeah.
I don't know if they don't have many hills and stuff in Spain, but I thought, Carlos, you turn the car. Maybe it's a safety thing in F1 that you have to keep the car wheels straight or something, or the release doesn't happen if the car.
You have to also think that there may be a bit of panic that your car is on fire, that you might not think about that.
That is true. That is very true, actually. If the car's on fire, I'll be thinking, screw this, I'm getting out.
Yeah.
I don't want to be
turning
a cheese
the
toasty.
wheel, making sure that you're into the curb. You're just getting out.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could think. They did manage to somehow, I think they wedged it with something, but
gloves, I think it was.
I'm not sure. I think he actually had a wedge underneath the gloves. I think.
Right, okay.
Because I was thinking, there's no way gloves. Because I looked at you, I was thinking, no, the gloves aren't going to do that on the replay. I think there was actually something that stopped it. But no, he got out okay. I'm assuming he's okay because he didn't look he got any fire or anything on him.
And I think there's a footage of one of the stewards asking if he's okay, and he put a thumbs up. He was fine.
But there was a brief where I was like, oh, hang on, like that's gone up in flames quite quick. He needs to get out.
Yeah.
And I hate that is the way he's just like, just get out. And it just sometimes takes a couple of seconds too long. And you start going, ooh. And I actually panned away from it as well. They cut the...
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, don't do this now. Like, I just want to check that he's actually got out the car.
Yeah.
But it was all fine. It's fine, everyone. He's fine. I think he's just a bit mentally drained after that because, Charles got 25 points in him. Max has got another 19 points in him. And he's just that bit further away in the championship as well.
Yeah.
I also feel like maybe his title challenge is gone now as well, do you think?
I don't know because...
Halfway through the season.
Yeah, it is halfway through the season. And I mean, there's still a lot that could happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, so moving on to, obviously, Ferrari's main title rivals in Red Bull. We already mentioned Checo having a tough weekend. And then Max obviously won the sprint race. That was really good. He looked a bit untouchable. Didn't have the pace. The tyres just got away from him constantly.
Yeah.
He stopped like 3 times, I was
going to say that. He pitted 3 times. He found it again in the end.
Yeah.
He was getting quicker again. So I can't remember what tyres he was on at the beginning, but I don't know if it was
mediums.
just... Oh, okay. Then he was on the mediums when he finished as well. So that doesn't...
I think it might have been the fuel load. I think that's the first time they were on big, fat, heavy cars.
Right, yeah.
I wonder if the tyres just went straight through them because the sprint would have been a third of the race distance. So it could have easily done that. Because I think he stopped on like lap 13, Max. The end of lap 13, I think it was. And the sprint was 23 laps.
Yeah, it was something like that. Like, it shouldn't...
It didn't make sense in my head.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think of is that it must have just been the fact that it was a heavier, fatter car at that point.
Yeah, that's the point.
But yeah, anyway, Max didn't really have the pace to keep up with the Ferraris this weekend.
No.
He looked actually very relieved that he finished second and got fastest lap. I think he would have taken that.
Yeah.
And I think...
Well, at one point, it was looking like he was going to be P3.
Well, yeah. And I think... I mentioned this to you when we were watching. I was thinking, this is the first time that I've sort of seen Max sort of look mature in the sense where he was like, do you know what? I'm leading the championship by quite a way. I don't need to win this race. I just need to finish this race. And if I can get a podium, I'll happily take that.
Yeah.
Because he quickly realised that he was in a bit of a situation here.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I've mentioned this to you before, but last year at Silverstone, he didn't need to be back pushing Hamilton that hard on that first lap because he could have let Lewis go and then got him later on maybe, or just finished second, and he would have had so many more points than he would have done.
Yeah.
I feel like he's learned a little bit from that. And if Max is learning to do that kind of stuff, this is really scary because we're starting to get a bit of a monster of a driver that's actually starting to use his brain in terms of being smart as well.
Yeah, and I think definitely racing Leclerc, he's had to be smart where to overtake and things like that. So maybe, you're probably right. Because
even Leclerc, we said earlier on in the season that Leclerc's almost outsmarting Max, whereas Max is still being raw, almost a frustrated child. But he didn't look like that today.
No.
He really didn't. And I'm as I say, we could be witnessing something scary with Max, I think. Yeah,
there was good driving, even with him and Lewis. Like, I was kind of on the edge of my seat a little bit, like, don't mess this up. But they were fine.
I think we've seen Lewis multiple times this year. He can go wheel to wheel. It only ever seems to be with Max that he couldn't. And to be honest, Max, I thought, was very good wheel to wheel. There's one that I was a little bit I'm an hour about, but we'll get onto that a bit later because that comes up in another section. But overall, I think we did very well all weekend and looked very good. Mercedes had a very good recovery. They had a bit of a tough Friday, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they were looking good. Lewis and George, Lewis more than George, was sort of setting purple sectors in qualifying. Looked like he might be up there on the front row or top 3. And then they both put it in the wall. I
know. I actually got to see that bit.
Yeah, Q3.
It was interesting. It was very uncharacteristic of Lewis, and again of
George as well.
They're not drivers that normally crash, and that resulted in their Is it new parts they had already?
The rear wings were new.
They obviously didn't have that, so it cost them a little bit.
It did hinder their performance a little bit, but Lewis managed to get another podium.
Yeah, somehow.
I think it's his third in the row, so they're gradually getting there with this car. I'm just trying to think. And George came P4. I was thinking that is probably as good a recovery as you could probably hope for, really. Yeah,
it's really good compared to what they've done in other...
Yeah.
Like earlier on in the season, they were nowhere near that.
No. And if you kind of think that if Checo was still in the race and Sainz engine didn't go, they probably would have comfortably finished 5th and 6th, which is roughly where they are as well. So I feel like that's a little bit inflated.
Yeah.
Because of the 2 DNFs for the Ferrari and the Red Bull there. But even so... with a sort of hindered performance, that's still pretty impressive. And I do want to see if Mercedes can get in there. It doesn't have to be Mercedes, but if another team can get up to the speed of Red Bull and Ferrari, or if Red Bull and Ferrari are pegged back with these new floor regulations or whatever that come in, technical directive, and we get more of a midfield battle going on towards the top end for the races, this will be so good. It will be amazing to see like a 3-way battle or like 6 teams going for race wins. That would be amazing to see.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of other teams, Alpine looked very fast, very, very fast.
Yeah.
Ocon, P5, and Alonso, I want to say he's P10, but I think he's currently being investigated for something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember what it was for now, though.
It was, it was unsafe release from the pit stop. They pitted, he was let out for a lap, but he said he could feel vibrations. So then they pitted him the next lap. And they think that race control thought that meant that the wheels weren't on properly.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So they will explain that and hope that they don't get a penalty.
Right. That makes sense. I think I actually heard Otmar say that it was fine. It's just that they wanted to change tyres with the lap afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit weird, but we'll see what it is. But going back to Alpine's pace, they look really quick.
They did,
to the point where I think they're probably... I don't think they're on Mercedes level, but
catching up.
I think they could start pushing them soon
because
Alonso's putting in some great laps in qualifying as well.
Yeah, he just needs a bit better luck on the Sundays.
Yeah.
Altogether, I feel like a lot of things happen to Alonso and he hasn't really been able to prove his speed yet.
No. But Ocon is having a fantastic season.
Yeah.
Really proving the doubters wrong. Us being those at times during the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, he looks good. He's turning into a really solid driver, actually, Ocon, which I didn't really know if he would ever get there. But again, like we said before, similar with Mick, similar with Carlos getting his win, Mick getting points, Ocon getting that win last year.
Yeah.
You just build from it and they take off. So it's quite good to see that. And another team that looked quick was also Haas.
Yes, they've kind of come back from what they were like in the beginning of the year. They've now, I think they got some upgrades. And so they obviously seem to be working.
Yeah, good to see Mick. I think Mick finished 6th. Got driver of the day or voted for driver of the day, which I could probably agree with that. I think he did very well.
Yeah, he had to fend off a lot of drivers.
He also did some good actual racing as well. His racecraft actually looked quite good.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. At one point, it was like 5 of them.
Yes, that was fantastic, wasn't it?
Mick, Nando,
Zhou and
Alonso. Was it Alonso? Yeah, the 5 of them, like, kind of driving together. It seemed like.
Imagine if that's for the race lead. I know there was strategy involved, and some of them were on newer tyres and some of them weren't. But that was, and they didn't make contact or anything. No. I was thinking that's a good spread of drivers there. You got Zhou, who's obviously rookie, Fernando, who's ancient at this point.
Yeah,
it's about 1,000 years old. But they're class drivers. They've got super licenses, and they're top. In theory, top 20 drivers in the world.
Yeah.
And that was just good to see.
Yeah.
As I say, Alpine were up there. Haas looked quick. I just want to see more teams get up there and we could get some really exciting racing going on, as we saw a little bit. And then finally on to probably one of the biggest topics this weekend. I don't fully know why it's so big, but track limits and just stewarding just in general. Now, we did touch a little bit on this earlier, but there's one that I want to come back to before we go like properly at it, because we did talk about it earlier. But Alonso being pushed off the track by Yuki, and Alonso giving him not the finger, not the bird, but just
waggling his finger. It was funny.
Bad Yuki is almost what you were saying, wasn't it? But what I want to know is that he obviously pushed him onto the grass. Alonso didn't like that, and I didn't like that. You don't need to do that. You can give them enough space. And as Alonso always says, you always need to leave enough space for a car. You're not going to put them in danger.
Yeah.
Now, where you've got white lines, right? Max, at the beginning of the race, in the sprint, he squeezed Leclerc actually over that white line. But because it was tarmac there, Johnny Herbert was like, that's fine. He didn't put him in a wall. Yeah. But I was like, how is that actually, if that's grass, how is that actually different? Do you see what I mean? I feel like I don't actually think Max did anything too wrong. And I've said this before, that Max will push it to a point where he then goes, the stewards are now going to make a decision.
Yes. And I think also Max knew that by pushing Leclerc into the tarmac, he wasn't actually causing danger.
Yes.
So if it was grass or if it was a wall, I don't think he would have done it. So that is the difference. And again, it might just be that there needs to be having a look at what the tracks are actually at what the tracks are actually like, and where they need to make some changes.
I just think that get rid of all the tarmac off it and literally just put grass there or gravel or something, a real deterrent to stop drivers going on it.
Yeah.
And they won't go on it.
Yeah. And then there's no need for the FIA having to look into all these penalties, which was ridiculous. I was saying it's a little bit like Oprah meme where it goes, you get a penalty and you get a penalty and everybody get a penalty.
You get TV. Yeah, that's a great meme. It was very much like that. And a lot of drivers are saying it's ridiculous and all this, but I was a bit like, hang on a second. They've said this from the off. They're going to be strict on track limits and stuff, which I agree with. I just think that the drivers need to almost get in their head. I know the visibility is bad, but just go, don't push it as much. Like you said, right? If you say none of the wheel can go over that white line, they will push it all the way up to it. Yeah. Regardless of the rules, they're going to go right up to the line anyway.
Yeah, but they wouldn't go beyond it.
No, because they're not allowed to go beyond it.
Yeah.
So it's just like they would have to adapt their driving style to that. And I think this is just one of the tracks where you almost can get away with it. And they kind of have put like serrated things in that damage to cars, and we've had a lot of sausage curbs and stuff, which I don't get why they're trying to invent these fancy things. Sausage curbs, in my opinion, I've seen a lot of articles about it this week. They're basically ramps. These cars are getting air. There was a big crash today at Monza in the World Endurance Championship. I don't know if anyone else has seen it. And Aston Martin goes into one of the chicanes, loses the rear, hits a sausage curb because it's a chicane. They think, oh, we'll put sausage curbs here. Get very similar to Zhou, hits it and then rolls down the next straight almost, and then goes into the barrier. And you're thinking, that all could have been avoided if we don't have those stupid sausage curbs. If that's just grass, he's going to lose the rear end and he'll go into the barrier's rear, but that's what the barriers are designed to do.
Yeah.
They're not designed to flip them up. And it's just, I'm going on a massive rant here, but I don't understand, well, we've got all this technology, but sometimes the technology isn't the way. We don't need serrated curbs. We don't need sausage curbs. Just put good old-fashioned grass in or gravel, and it will be a deterrent enough that they won't do it. Because at the moment, all they're doing is going, I can go over there a little bit, and it's fine.
Yeah. And then they get damage to the floors of their cars, or they go in the wrong way and lose it a little bit, like Russell in his thing with Perez.
Yeah.
It was kind of because he went over the curb, wasn't it?
A little bit, yeah. I think there's more that the cars are just heavy. But
I know, but the point is, little things like that could be avoided.
Yeah. So as always, quickly, we're just going to do a race rundown to make sure we haven't missed anyone, because it was a bit of a bonkers weekend. So obviously, Charles Leclerc won the Grand Prix, came second in the sprint race, and that was flipped for Max Verstappen, who won the sprint, became second in the Grand Prix. Lewis P3, as I said, and George P4, a great recovery drive for Mercedes there. Ocon, I still can't believe how well he's doing this season. I'm expecting it to sort of drop off, but he didn't. He was actually the last car that wasn't lapped, if that makes sense. So he was the one, only 5 cars were actually on the leading lap, if that makes sense. So Ocon was one of those. That shows how good that pace in that car is. And was only 10 seconds behind Russell there.
Yeah.
I know Russell didn't have a great race, but even so, I just think Ocon's been on it. Mick P6, again, class drop by Mick. I think Mick today was even better than he was yesterday in the sprint. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I think he used his annoyance to build on that even more almost, didn't he?
Yeah. A Lewis trait.
Yeah. Lando P7. We didn't actually mention McLaren at all. I said Ricciardo would finish ahead of Lando, very optimistically, stupidly, probably. But he was P7 and Ricciardo there in P9. So that's a good chunk of points for McLaren, actually.
Yeah, and Lando was one of the people that got a 5-second penalty, I think.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite good of him to manage to get up there.
For track limits as well.
He was also using what Martin Brundle said, asthmatic engine.
Yes.
Or was it Crofty?
No, it was Brundle. So basically it wasn't running at optimum. I think so he had, in FP1, if I remember correctly, he's had a fire, I think, in the back of his car.
Right, okay.
So they changed the engine. I think he said it's an asthmatic one. It's one that's got a lot of mileage on it, basically. It's not going to be as efficient.
Okay.
So the fact that he's actually done that well in it is quite impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah. P8, Kevin Magnussen, again, Haas 6th and 8th. Again, second weekend in a row where they picked up some decent points.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Ricciardo, as we said, P9 for that Mercedes McLaren. Mercedes and McLaren, they just do my head in. Just M's. I don't know why. Am I the only one that struggles with that?
Yeah, I don't get them mixed up.
It's just me.
I get the alphas mixed up.
Yeah, but that makes more sense because they're actually alphas. Why do I get McLarens mixed up? I don't know. We'll move on. Fernando Alonso, currently P10. That may change. I think he'll be all right, though, to be honest, with that penalty, possibly incurring with a pit stop. Valtteri Bottas, P11. He is one driver, apparently, that is hoping that Fernando gets a penalty, so then he'll be able to get a point. I was going to say that he looked all right in that, actually, that Alfa Romeo. Didn't see too much of him at all, though. Another driver didn't see much of at all, but did very well. Alex Albon, we mentioned that they had upgrades last weekend. I still think he had the upgrades this weekend, I think.
Yes, yes, they did.
And he seems to be doing quite well.
Mm-hmm. Quieter race than yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say the sprint, he was getting in a bit of a mess during that, but no, he was all right. P13, Lance Stroll. I don't think I saw much of Stroll at all, to be honest.
We did see some of Stroll when...
he didn't stop for ages, did he?
No, so he was kind of in the midfield battle, even though I kind of felt like it was a bit pointless because he was going to pit at some point and lose all those positions, but...
He was there.
And it made good, entertaining watching.
Yeah, mixing and mingling. 14th was Guan Yu Zhou, or Zhou Guan Yu. Do you know what? I was very critical of him early on, but I feel like he's actually proven his worth a little bit. I think he's been doing really well. I think currently we've reached a midpoint. I think he would easily keep that seat at the moment. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. He's one that I thought might be under a bit of pressure. Same as Mick, but I think currently I would say... Yeah, I think they're doing all right.
Maybe it is the rumours of being swapped out that kind of gets them... Some people do really well under pressure, others don't.
Yeah, Giovinazzi was one that needed a lot of pressure to do well, I think.
Yeah, but I think it just came a bit too late.
Yeah, and he was a little bit unlucky, wasn't he? But I love Gio. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
P15, Pierre Gasly. Awful weekend. He got a penalty for knocking Sebastian Vettel off, as we said. He also then got a 5-second penalty for track limits.
Yeah. And then it looked like the FIA weren't happy with
the
5-second penalty.
So looking into that.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of an... I feel like he's been probably the biggest disappointment so far this season. I was expecting a lot more from him.
Yeah, but I mean, looking at Tsunoda... I just think it's more the performance of the car rather than performance of the drivers. But
I feel like there's a lot of silly mistakes that Gasly's making that he wouldn't have made last year.
Right.
I wonder if he's liking too much stuff on Instagram and just isn't properly focusing on the driving. I'm not sure if he's liking as he's going along. I haven't seen the onboards, but I wonder if he's just got his phone in there going
like it,
double tap, and then puts it back in his cockpit somewhere.
Apparently, if anything, it makes his coordination much better because he's not coordination, it's reaction time. That's the one I'm thinking, because he's
how many likes do you reckon he could get in on that straight, on the back straight, the one at the top? So you come out the top of turn 3, going down towards turn 4 where everyone seems to knock each other off, maybe that's why he did knock Vettel off. Maybe he was liking a picture. I reckon that's it. I'm trying to work out in my head, I'm not on Instagram much, but if you scroll double tap. I reckon he could get about 10 in, do you reckon? I don't know. Let us know how many likes you reckon he could get in on that back straight, the top straight at Austria. I reckon he could get about 10 in maybe. Anyway, we've got way too sidetracked there. P16, Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate. Bar him getting told off by Alonso, I don't remember too much with Tsunoda. But again, P16 can't have been amazing.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. I do remember seeing him driving, but I don't remember anything that's like stands out that he did.
No. P17 Seb. I love Seb. I think he's class. Had his B helmet this weekend, which I liked.
He did,
for
yeah.
his B hotel that he's
I know.
made.
He's opening a second B hotel. Maybe we can stay there.
What do you reckon they're called?
I don't know. B hotel.
Honeylicious.
Does it need a name?
Beautiful. It's got to have a name. Sebastian Vettel named his cars, although apparently he hasn't named this year's car yet. Still hasn't got a name for it.
Does that mean that it's
probably
really
a swear word or something? Yeah. He seems to just struggle this weekend. He seemed quite frustrated. I still feel like that Aston has got performance. They just can't quite get it. I would be really frustrated if I was Lawrence Stroll. You're pumping a lot of money into this team. You've basically copied one of the best cars on the grid. And then another team in Williams, one of your rivals, has copied it and seems to be going further ahead than you.
Yeah.
It's like they can't even copy well anymore.
No.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But I really like Aston. I like the brand. I like the colour of the car. I like Seb. I want to see him do well. It just doesn't seem to quite happen, does it?
No.
Carlos Sainz, obviously, car was on fire. We were a bit disappointed by that, especially just as he was about to get Max as well. Gutted. Latifi was also not classified. I didn't even know that, did you?
Yeah, so he...
in the old spec Williams, I assume. I don't actually know if he had the upgrades or not.
Oh, I don't know.
He was a lot slower than Albon, though.
Yeah, and it was something to do with the car. The car didn't feel right, and he felt like it was unsafe to drive. But I can't remember why it felt unsafe to drive now.
Wasn't a sticky pedal.
No, it wasn't a sticky pedal.
But anyway, he didn't finish. He wasn't classified. Went out on lap 48. And then obviously Checo was the other one that didn't finish, and that was the top 20. Or all 20, because the top 20 is all of them. I don't know why I've said top 20. Verstappen obviously scored the fastest lap, so he got 19 points, or the extra point to take him up to 19. Gasly received a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision, which I don't think he served. That's why it's in the notes. And Vettel also got a 5-second time penalty on the last lap for exceeding track limits.
Tyres are okay for plan B.
Questions.
Ooh, questions.
We've got one from Dexo.
Hello, Dexo.
Which driver has finished second in the championship the most times? We had a little discussion.
Yes. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if it's Lewis Hamilton, because Lewis Hamilton seems to have every single record in the world. But I don't think it is Lewis Hamilton.
I don't think it is Lewis Hamilton. But we think Lewis was about three times.
3 or 4 times, I think he's got.
Yeah.
I think it may be Rubens Barrichello.
Okay.
Because he was at Ferrari when he was Schumacher's teammate a few years, and he came second. He must have come second quite a few years in that, although Hakkinen was round. When I think of Hakkinen, all I just think about is his farty seat now as well. If you don't know about Hakkinen's farts, that's from last week. So it could be Rubens Barrichello. He also came second, I think, or maybe he didn't come second in 2009, because Seb was close then as well.
We also talked about Alonso being close a couple of times. And when we say close, we mean close to winning. So they would naturally be the second.
Yeah.
Bottas
could be.
Although I don't know how many
but
Verstappen
Seb
got.
was close as well.
Yeah.
Verstappen, I think, got... Oh, I don't know. Has Verstappen ever finished second?
2020?
But I still feel like the Red Bull weren't that quick at that point, were they?
Right.
It was still Mercedes dominating. I'm not sure, Dexa. I'm not sure where this is going to go, because I'm also not sure 90s and 80s in like terms of who came second. So I know Mansell won, but he was around for a long time. So I'm not sure how many times he would have got close to that as well. So it could be someone like that.
Right.
But that's that. I wouldn't know that, if that makes sense. I'm not sure. My answer is I'm not sure. If I had to go with one, I'm going to go Barrichello.
Okay.
Who are you going to go with?
I might go with Lewis.
just because he gets everything.
Yeah. It would be because you remember when we looked up who has the most
I was convinced it would be
second
Bottas.
places on podium, and we thought Bottas must be it. No,
Lewis.
it was Lewis.
Lewis has got first and second.
The most times.
He might even have third this year currently as well. He's got third, 4 times now?
4 times, yeah. With a crap car, that's crazy, no?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not crap.
It's not that bad though. It's just not winning
compared
races,
to what they normally have. Yeah. Our second question is from Brad.
Hello, Brad.
If you had the chance,
shall I read it for you?
Okay, fine.
If you had the chance to give a challenge to drivers on the grid, what would you give them? What would you get them to do, basically? I'll come with that.
So Brad is saying that he thinks it would be fun to pit some teams against each other in escape rooms. I think that's really good.
That would be a great one.
Yeah. It's sort of the thing that they do on the grid where they try to see how tall all the drivers are.
The only thing I have... but that one when they're tall, they all just lied.
They all just lied.
Lando is nowhere near as tall as he said he was.
You know, I don't know why they chose to ask the drivers rather than just go by. I'm sure, on
their passport, maybe not on British passports, but on other passports and stuff, they have their height, don't they, and stuff on it.
Yeah, my passport does.
I don't know. This is a revolutionary idea. Measure them yourself once you're there.
But I thought that maybe because they are F1 drivers, that F1 would have some sort of.
Oh, they weigh them all the time, so maybe they might.
Yeah, they must have the height somewhere.
Do you know what? I've just thought there's a great clip where Ted is interviewing Daniel Ricciardo and they're asking him to measure something. It's like his chest or something.
Yeah.
And then he goes, do you want me to go to the bathroom and get the other measurement? And then Ted's like, oh, you had to go down there to that level, didn't you? But he's dead serious as well. Ricciardo's like, do you want me to go to the bathroom and get the other measurement?
That's why it makes it funny.
Oh, that's great.
So back to the question.
Do you know what? I hate doing the plank, the exercise where you're trying to do your abdominals and stuff like that, where you've got to do the plank. I think I'd get them to do the plank. See, one who could do the longest plank, because that's quite interesting, because they'll be super competitive. I reckon Alonso would be nuts here for some reason.
Yeah, I could see that.
But then I think you could also quiz them on certain aspects of the car. You know how Helmut Marko got Lando to go...
He asked him how heavy the car was.
Yeah, and he had no idea.
And then he said, Max Verstappen would know. How awkward.
I think that's the funniest thing. Speaking of Helmut Marko, he's basically come out and written an article slagging off all the F1 drivers for Red Bull, bar Max and Seb.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the 2 that have won them a title. But everyone else, he's ripping into them.
Yeah, probably not the most liked person at the moment.
I mean, Red Bull make me laugh because they are super successful. I'm not that big a fan of Christian Horner or Helmut Marko, but you've got to take your hat off them because they are super successful in what they do.
Yeah.
But just the way they go about stuff, sometimes I'm like, it can't be that fun being in that environment, surely.
No. Yeah.
I mean, the way they've treated drivers like Gasly, for example, I just feel like it just can't be that fun for them, can it? And imagine if Lando was never going to be a Red Bull driver because he's not engineered, he's not wired like that, is he? To know every single thing about the car.
No.
Not at that age as well.
Well, I don't think it matters at age. I think it's more his personality. Lando just drives. He doesn't care about how much the car weighs and what is that makes the car go. It just goes for him, Whereas I think knowing how much the car weighs is more of an engineer's problem.
Yeah, that is true.
I think a mini golf would be.
You love mini golf though.
Yeah.
you love mini golf. It's because you win.
Yeah, maybe, but it's.
I don't know how you win. No, not being offensive here, but I don't know. It's just
what is it? You normally say jammy.
Yeah, you are a bit jammy.
Yeah.
When we've done mini golf before, you just somehow you turn into Tiger Woods. You're just putting them from miles away, and I'm like, hang on a second. It just doesn't add up because you don't play golf.
I don't play golf. I've never played golf.
No, I'm not.
Just mini golf.
Yeah, just mini golf. But
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you're a bit of a pro.
Maybe. But I was thinking the drivers, a lot of them play golf.
They do, yeah.
And I think mini golf being a shorter stint of And it's also not so much, I don't feel like it's on a lot of skill. I think a lot of it is luck with mini golf.
I would disagree with that. I would disagree with that.
Okay, well.
I mean, there is a certain element of luck. Maybe with you.
Yeah, with me, it's all luck.
But I just feel like, I don't know. The only thing that I worry about is if you're getting them to do like 9 holes or 18 holes or something, that's like a full day. That's not like something you can get them to do quickly. Because, you know, when you see them do like, I don't know, when they first went to, you know, they went to like Miami or something, they did some American football stuff and all of that things. I don't think they spend a lot of time there, so it has to be quite quick.
Mini golf is normally about 9 holes.
That's what I mean, but it's like a half an hour thing.
Yeah, half an hour to an hour.
And then you normally go on a date. It's normally a date, isn't it? So like, they're going to hold hands.
And then you go, and then you have food afterwards. Or you can have before, depending.
Yeah. Or maybe you could like, I don't know, you could share like a box of chips or something, get some dips. You hold hands. Like imagine K-Mag and I was going to say Michael Schumacher, that'd be a bit weird, but Mick Schumacher just holding hands. They go to the next hole.
Yeah.
I think I'd get Ted there as well, just to bring some.
Ted is so good.
Some
He's
awkward
great.
Comicalness that he just the situations he gets into is just.
I just don't understand them, but they're so funny.
Yeah. So you're going mini golf.
I think that'd be really good.
And then I would have them do the plank and ask them questions.
I think that's a bit boring.
All right. Well, no, I didn't have too much time to think about it because I didn't read Brad's question till now. Mini golf. Who would you say would do well? Because I said Alonso would do well with the plank. Do you know what, I'll go,
Yuki.
Well, why?
I don't know.
I think you'd get too angry.
Do you reckon?
I think he'd lose his... You've got to be quite calm. I think he'd be too angry. I was going to chuck out Seb. I think this is right up Seb's alley.
Do you think?
Yeah, he's got a bit of an engineer's mind.
Okay.
Like, he will work out. You'll get a good stroke on it. He's quite calm. The bees will be flying around him. He'll be very happy. Bliss. Just stroking.
I don't think that there's anything to work out in mini golf.
Not for you, because you're jammy.
No, but like, other than you just
I can't believe
hit the ball.
Do you know how hard golf is? Do you know there's a whole sport that they pay millions of pounds for the professionals?
Yes, but there's a difference between golf and mini golf. Mini golf is something that you do.
Right, so on a normal green, right, you've got to get it in a hole. In mini golf, they've got ramps, clowns, windmills, all of these stupid stuff going on.
Exactly.
That's harder than
normal. So you just hit the ball and hope for the best.
Have you seen Happy Gilmore?
No.
I think you should watch Happy Gilmore when he goes to the mini golf section. Just tapping on. Tap, tappity, tap, tap.
And if you've seen Happy Gilmore, that will probably make sense.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel like mini golf might be harder than actual golf. I don't know how we've ended up this far away from F1.
No, this is answering the question.
I know, but I still feel like we definitely go on a tangent where we just get lost in the questions. But I love the questions because they're always fantastic. So if you ever have a question that you want us to answer, like Brad and Dexo, chuck them in there in the comments on YouTube or on Instagram, and we will get them in the next podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else we need to do. It's been quite a long one today.
Probably because it's been sprint weekend.
It's been sprint weekend, so we've got a whole nother race that we had to dissect. Podcast next week, you're doing it?
Yeah. Again, as with mini golf, I'm just winging it, so I've don't know what's going to be.
We're not sure what that's going to be yet. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic, though.
Oh, amazing, yeah.
So it's going to be mini golf, dissected, technique. No, it's not. It'll be something on F1 because we're an F1 podcast. It'll be funny if it wasn't. But yeah, we'll be back with that next week. Obviously, no race. The next race is Paul Ricard in 2 weeks' time. As always, check us out, not just on YouTube, if you listen to YouTube, or Spotify, wherever you listen to it. We do have multiple ways to listen to it.
Yeah.
As I said, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, on our website, on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, so follow us on Instagram as well. And that is everything, I think. So have a good week, everyone. And we will see you in next week's episode. Take care.
See ya.
Tires are okay for plan B.